Hello and welcome to Education Talk. Now, this is your favorite program on education on television, and today we'll be looking at new and emerging challenges on education and the solutions to these education-related challenges. I'm Wilma. To discuss these various issues today on this episode is Dr. Chris Imafidon, who is a renowned education consultant, and he is an advisor to presidents and monarchs as well. Dr. Chris, you're very welcome to our program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, maths and science should be the priority for England schools, says Prime Minister David Cameron. He announced the opening of a national college for digital skills in London in 2015 this week to enhance economic competitiveness in the global race. There will be specialist training to improve the skills of 17,500 maths and science teachers.
We're putting in place the resources and the training and making sure that every school can do this. It will take time, but it's absolutely vital for the success of our country that we teach maths and science and computing in the modern way, because that will be one of the things that determine whether we succeed or not.
I am delighted about what the Prime Minister is doing, because if this doesn't happen at all, and in the nearest future, our economy will be years behind our Scandinavian cousins. One of the things we've stressed on this program is the importance of maths, science and computing, and that is exactly what the Prime Minister is saying.
Yeah, he's waking up to it rather late, because we live in a technological age. And underpinning that technology is got to be the understanding of the fundamental principles that we are applying, because technology is just applying the principles that we've worked with in science, and math is the logic of science, is the language of science. So if we're waking up to that, no matter how late it is, I think it's useful, but we should be far more radical, because there are a lot of countries that were behind yesteryears that will be overtaking the so-called advanced countries now, because we are all getting this same knowledge at the same time. So there are no advanced countries, there are no third world country. Any country that is able to lay their hands on this technology will leapfrog and will redistribute that level of competitiveness that we had before. So no single country has inherent advantage built into them anymore. You just have to make sure that you go out there and bat your way through to the top.
Indeed, you know, talking about maths, because figures show that whatever the child learns in maths and the level of skills is directly translated into the economy of the nation and really what the child is able to earn in adult life.
Yes, understanding the principles of maths means that the country will move at a particular pace. Now, not understanding it also means that the country will lag behind. So if we understand that maths is at the very foundation of our educational system, and that has to be pursued, then we'll make sure that we get specialist teachers into the teaching of mathematical principles very early. Because right now we're making a fundamental error. The error is that we're allowing non-specialists, non-enthusiastic teachers to lay the foundation, because we assume that elementary education or primary education is not important. But that's when the biggest mistakes are made. If you lay your foundation very well, you can go ahead and build a superstructure on it. But if you have a shaky foundation, you can't put anything on top of it. It will all collapse. And I think the government should take one extra step to make sure that the teaching of mathematics at primary level is completely overhauled.
What extra steps should be taken? Because he has also announced a specialist scheme to improve the skills of 17,500 maths and science teachers.
Yes, what I'm saying, if it's going to be at secondary level, it's too late. It has to be brought down to primary level. We should have workshop for current teachers of years 1 to 3, where the real teaching takes place, where the student is grounded in the foundations of maths. If you're grounded in that at that age, that means before the age of 8, whatever comes on top of it will be a lot easier for you. But if we leave it and then wait until they are 11, that's essentially what happens at secondary school. It means that we have missed a wonderful opportunity to lay a strong foundation.
Which means what has been taught as kindergarten should be radically overhauled.
Yes, we should make
more
numbers.
More of computing, more of maths, more of science.
Yes, numbers and logic. Numbers and the logic or the reasoning behind numbers should be the real focus, because you can never ever underestimate the mental capacity of children. And if we think that they are not capable of getting those concepts that we are literally hiding away from them, we'll find out that really the absorption level drops when the child hits puberty and becomes a teenager. So we should really be planting on this side of things, not post-puberty.
Not post-puberty. I mean, we had a child recently in our studio, a child genius, Israel, who really passed maths at the age of 8 with a GCSE grade C.
That's right.
So it is possible for the kids to actually become advanced in maths very early.
The only impossibility is what we have created for the children. The limits are the ones that we've imposed on the children, saying because you're too young, you can't do this. Most children are capable of doing that and in fact exceeding that level of mathematical skills or experience on working on basic problems. They understand problem solving. So we just need to give them more of it and then guide them and support them. They will excel beyond our widest expectations.
Beyond our widest expectations, I like that. Now let's look at Ofsted. It has just published its annual report, and Education Secretary Nikki Morgan isn't pleased at all with the report given by the Chief Inspector of Schools, Sir Michael Wilshaw. Let's take a look at the key points of this report. First, almost a third of secondary schools in England have been judged not to be good enough. And there are now 170,000 pupils in inadequate secondary schools, and which is about 70,000 more than 2 years ago. Now that figure is very huge, 170,000, which is 70,000 more than 2 years ago.
It's very saddening because we should build on our success. We shouldn't somehow take one giant step and then take forward and then take 2 steps backward. We understand what makes a child enjoy learning. It has to be the environment we've created for the child to learn. Now, if the environment we've created is called schools, and these schools we are getting 1/3, that means over 30% of our schools are inadequate. We shouldn't expect miracles from the students. We should, first of all, be very clear what type of students we want to raise. If you're interested in fishing and you want to go for freshwater fish, you generate freshwater. If you want saltwater fish, you generate saltwater. If we want successful students, we got to make the schools outstanding. And it doesn't cost more to make a school outstanding. It just means a very, very focused leadership. If we have a focused leadership, you change the culture in the school. So it has nothing to do with money, it has nothing to do with facilities, it has nothing to do with, in fact, it's just one simple, and we've done this over and over again in experiments. If you change the governing board of a school, what happens to the performance of the school? It just hits the roof. So I think the government and really the Secretary of State should review not just the appointment of heads, but the constitution of various governing boards of schools.
The constitution of various governing boards of schools. Now, let's look at the other solutions we have here before we go into changing the heads of the schools and everything. Parents. What can parents do when they find out that their child is in a school that has been rated inadequate?
It's a very simple thing. You start prospecting for another school because you know that the environment is very important. You will be able to do some work at home that will try and compensate for the learning deficit that takes place in school. But that's a very hard slog. But you have to actively look at other schools in the area and schools away from your area that will make a satisfactory contribution to the development of your child.
Most times, those other schools are oversubscribed.
Yes, that's where organizations like EIE will come in and be able to look at what are the entry requirements for those schools. And if you understand the entry requirement for those schools and you meet the entry requirements, they'll give you a scholarship because they want you. If your child brings value to the table, they'll say, oh yes, this is type of student we want in this school. If your child just wants to benefit from the school without having skills or talent developed, because I believe every child has skills and every single child has talents in them. But if they are developed, then they will shine, and if they shine, then the school will want to get them for any reason at all. They are ready to admit students midstream if they've seen excellence expressed in that child.
Let's look at the ones that are taking the hard route, where they have to really do a lot of work at home to bridge the gap in the educational attainment of the child. Where can the parents come in to ensure that a child doesn't fall behind at all?
You just ask the child questions about what really happened in school today. Making the child reflect on activities in school has been demonstrated to make sure that that child moves on. Because if I know that when I get home, my parents are going to ask me what happened in school today, and I'll say fine. And then they're going to ask a further question, probing what was fine about the school, what was a highlight, what subject was fine, then I know that next time in school I have to listen more, because I'm going to be asked to tell them the story of what happened in school. I'm going to be held accountable. So you don't need to be a subject specialist as a parent to ask what happened in school today and what aspect of it was good. You don't have to be a subject specialist to get a child to regurgitate or reflect on what was given to them in school today, because that will add 33% more to the memory of the child, because the child has now told the story to a third party. So just retelling the story enhances your memory. Retelling the story also makes you more serious the next time you're having that same teacher. And the last but not the least is that when it comes to assessment, what is being assessed is your memory. So you find that that child will then do better. So if you're really stuck in a school that you can't get out, those are simple steps you can take to be able to bring out the best in your son or your daughter.
Which means parents should endeavor to spend about 5 to 10 minutes a day with their child, asking them about what they learned in school for that day.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be face-to-face. It doesn't have to be physical. You can do, technology has aided us now. We can do all sorts of Skype. We can do things, we can do Google Hangout. We can do a video conference with our son or daughter. Or the last but not the least, we can do plain telephone. We can telephone them and find out what happened today. So if you're a busy parent, you go to work, and by the time your son or your daughter gets home, you're not physically at home. What you then need to do is make a phone call and find out essentially what happened and ask probing questions. You've got to be able to ask the right questions.
Asking the right questions, that's important. Now, the primary school league table is out, and let's look at the implication of this for parents. What should parents do looking at the league table? It should be one factor in guiding us in the choice of schools. Because if we know that we are your child is attending an outstanding school, it's very reassuring. And then you can participate more in the activities of the school. Now, if the position of your school is lower on the league table, then you must make contribution. You must become a member of the Parents-Teacher Association. You must find how you can be be elected as a parent governor in the school, because there are vast opportunities for you to contribute to the school as a parent governor. You must be involved. Some feel that a league table is not very important because it doesn't always give the true picture of what goes on in the school. It doesn't give a complete picture, but it does give some indication about what is happening in terms of how many students were able to get the national average, level 4, for instance, at the end of year 6, how many students were able to get level 2 at the end of Key Stage 1, because you need to have markers. It's a useful indicator, but it doesn't give, in spite of the fact that it doesn't paint a complete picture, you still need to respond to why a school may be middle of the league table or bottom of the league table. So if it's top of the league table, yes, okay, that's fine. But if it's below, if less than 90% of the boys and girls are achieving level 4, is worrying. You need to find out what you need to do to support your son to get level 4. So apart from the league table, the parents have to physically visit the school with the child to learn other things about the school. About the environment, about the culture, try as much as possible to find out about the culture of the school, because the culture of the school, at some instance, will be reflected in your son or your daughter. If the school has a focused homework program, for instance, it will tell on your son or your daughter. If they have a lousy homework club or a lousy homework policy where they bring you homework once a week in one subject alone, then that's telling us something very radically wrong with the school, because you need feedback on what has been taught in the class. The homework is one useful way of finding out how many students heard what I said in class today, how many understood what I said, how many can apply what I said, because you've got to be able to tick all those 3 boxes. If you cannot apply the knowledge you got in class today, then you are going to struggle with it when it comes to using it or being asked as a follow-up question during a formal assessment or exams. So that's why I feel every parent has to really, really settle down and be able to work on these 3 questions. Now you have some giveaways for students here, £250 worth of e-books for those who register early for the Christmas revision. Yes. Now tell us some of the e-books that our viewers will be getting. You'll be getting the very basic introductory books, some pictorials, others with a video link that deals with Key Stage 1 maths, Key Stage 2 maths, and Key Stage 3 maths. The one that deals with Key Stage 2 science,
and Key Stage 3 Science. And then the one that deals with Key Stage 1 Math, English, Key Stage 2 English, and then Key Stage 3 English. So if you're in any of those key stages, you will literally have an e-library of materials that will guide you. And then you have workbooks that you can point and click, which is very interactive and always seems like a game. So the old-fashioned way of reading and writing and trying to work through books is literally dying out. If you want to get the concepts into most of our youths today, you must be electronic. And if you're electronic, you will sustain their interest for longer. If you're traditional, then you find out that their interest will wane after 20 or 30 minutes. But most of them can spend 2 hours, straight 2 hours playing video games. So if you give them a mathematical game to play, oh, they'll enjoy it. They will not see any difference between that and the normal games for entertainment. So you're you're literally recycling knowledge in a way that is very entertaining to your target audience.
And it's important to start very early enough to encourage the kids to use e-books. For example, the Prime Minister was talking about coding in the primary schools.
Yes.
And we said it should actually start from kindergarten.
Yeah.
So the kids should actually start coding from kindergarten using e-books.
Yeah, you see 2, 3-year-olds getting your iPad and dragging apps on it. You either hide the app from them or hide the iPad from them, and then they'll be strangers to technology, or you expose them to useful apps, educational apps, that will then enhance their learning and make them ahead of their colleagues. So it's a two-way thing. You either destroying or you are constructing a big learner out of your child. So make sure that the electronic that they're exposed to, they're encouraging the use of it, one, to get very useful and relevant and educational apps for them to use. And if you don't have any clues about educational apps, if you come to our website, we are able to give you a whole list of them. You click on them. Most of them are free. You just download them for free. So there are no economic barriers to stop you from downloading useful apps for your boys and girls.
It's actually the knowledge that is the barrier,
Yes.
not even the money.
No, it's not the money.
For a lot of people.
It doesn't cost anything.
Let's look at your Christmas revision now. The Christmas revision as EIE, what advantage do students have going to EIE for their revision? You
go through the school term without, first of all, most people don't know what is supposed to be achieved within the 3 months of the school term. At EIE, we'll look at the national curriculum, we'll look at the expected levels to be achieved, and then the child is benchmarked against that. So if there are any areas where the child is lagging behind, you identify that deficit very early, and then you reinforce that deficit. You reinforce that area. And if you reinforce the area, the advantage therefore means that if you come back in January, you are not lagging behind one term in one subject or one term in one topic. So you are, if at all, you are right on board. Most people that stay on throughout the entire program will then go through what is going to be covered the next term. So you are now one term ahead of most of your classmates or your friends or your colleagues. So when you go back to school in January, you are just revising, reinforcing what has already been explained to you. So it's always a useful thing, because if you don't nip it in the bud now and make sure that the child is up to the level required after one term in the academic year, it drags on and it becomes, it just snowballs, so that the child now falls back, God forbid, in basic concept. If you don't get the basic foundation points right, if you build anything on it, it collapses.
So it's possible for the child to be one term, you said one term ahead of the level required. EIE can do that?
Yeah, it's routinely done. One term, some 2 terms ahead, others one whole year ahead. It depends on the interest of the child. It depends on how well you're giving the materials to them. If you give the materials to them in a very, very easily digestible way, in chunks of it, then you find out the child wants more. The child is really inquiring what happens next. How does this fit into what we've learned before? And then you don't have a time restriction, because in schools, it's timetabled in such a way that it's 40 minutes or 30 minutes per subject. But here, you remove the boundaries of time. So you explore as long as you want to, as far as you want to. So that's the reason why every year the program is oversubscribed, because parents that have had children go through it really know the benefit and want to send their children back to.
So the difference between your revision and the traditional way of revising, really, for exams, is your method of delivery.
Yeah, the method of delivery is crucial. And then the learning style of the students is incorporated into the delivery of the content as well. So if a student is visual, all visual students sit on the same table. If you're auditory, you sit on the same table. And if you're kinesthetic, you sit on the same table. So you work with so-called learning tribes or people that learn the same way as you do. So you are not odd. You don't feel, I think I'm doing it the wrong way. If you see everyone around you on your table doing it exactly the same way, you are re-energized, you are enthused, and then you compete with each other. And that raises standards. If you're by yourself and you're only doing it the way you want, then you find out that you are unable to pursue it with the same energy and enthusiasm that you would have had if you had other boys and girls doing exactly the same thing as you.
During exams, no provisions are made for those that are auditory learners or visual learners or kinesthetic learners.
Sadly, none. And that's one of the things that we've been campaigning for, because we believe all fingers are not the same, and you should be able to accommodate the way a child learns. If you're able to accommodate the way the child learns, the interest of the child, therefore, will go up because you've taken account of their interests. But the mainstream school curriculum does not have the flexibility or capacity to be able to do that, or even the will, because if they had the will and had difficulties, there will have been people that will partner with them and work with them in sections of the industries that will want to see the educational system raised.
And after sitting under your tutelage and going through your method of delivery, these students are able to easily adapt to the traditional ways of teaching in schools and following the curriculum.
Yes, because they've now gotten their best way of learning. So if they find a concept difficult to learn, they switch to their best way of learning. It's like if I'm struggling writing with my left hand, if I now have the pen switched to my right hand, I'm now in my own way of writing, and I'll write better, it'll be clearer, it'll be more legible, and people will be able to read me more. It's the same goes for learning. Every single human being has their best way of learning.
Best way of learning. So it's important for parents to actually help their children know the best way of learning, whether they're kinesthetic, visual, or auditory, and that would help the child a lot. Now, you'll be speaking alongside the Mayor of Enfield this weekend. What is the objective of this meeting?
There are some sectors of London that are not native in terms of English. So we have French speakers, we have Russian speakers, and we have other communities. And these communities usually lose out because they are not able to access the mainstream. So this meeting was called essentially by a largely French community, and we'll be looking at how does the educational system in England differ from the background French educational system, and how best to support their children to adapt to the English system and excel in it. So we have it's a large women organization that's running it, and they're looking specifically at all my entire slides, my presentation is going to be bilingual. So even if you think that language is a barrier, still come, because the fact that you speak French or you're only fluent in French doesn't mean that materials are going to be inaccessible to you. We're making it accessible, and then your children will be encouraged in the act of bilinguality. They need to be able to speak both languages because one is their native language, and then take GCSE or write any of the exams way ahead of their colleagues in it. So that's booking them ahead as gifted and talented in a particular area. Why? Because you already have domestic support for it. So we're turning the fact that you are non-English on his head and making it an advantage, because most times it's, oh no, he can't speak English, therefore he can't understand the concept in maths. But who says you cannot have those concepts explained in your mother tongue or your preferred language and then transfer it over to English? So it's not a barrier to be bilingual. You must know that.
We would encourage children to be bilingual on this program because a lot of our Scandinavian cousins are really bilingual,
yes,
apart from England.
Yeah.
So really, children in England should speak a second language. Now, for our French-speaking viewers who want to attend this meeting, what should they do?
If you send us an email, or if you go on our Eventbrite page, you'll be able to register. The registration doesn't cost you anything except if you come in as a VIP. So if you go to the Excellence in Education website, you'll see a link there, and then it just takes you straight to Eventbrite, and then fill out your form. All you need is your name and your email address. You don't need to fill in a very detailed form or a long form.
The seminar you had at the Enrichment Centre in London, it has been talked about by a lot of parents and teachers. Tell us some of the tips that parents did take away at this seminar.
It's really knowing that if you have a child in a school and that child is finding a particular subject difficult, it is not down to the child. It may be down to the teaching of that subject. Or it may be down, not even to the teaching, but to the relationship that that child may have with the teacher.
So it is wrong for the parent to say, oh, my child is not good at maths.
Yes.
Simply because the grades in maths are poor.
Yes, especially when you know that there are other ways of learning that same subject, which is essentially what we were saying earlier. Before you can say your child is not good in a subject, you must have tried multiple opportunities and given the child repeated exposure to that material in different forms and with different, someone that has different perspective. The child may not want to be able to understand the whole thing from the pages of a textbook, but if he sees the principles applied, he will see the relevance of it, and it will graphically obvious to him that, oh, I didn't know that was what they were trying to tell us. So you must give your child repeated exposure to a particular body of knowledge before you can come to a judgment as to say the child should discontinue learning a particular subject just because one teacher or a group of teachers in his school told him so, or his grades misled him to thinking that because he consistently has low grades in a subject, he's not good in that subject. No, grade will not determine your proficiency or your understanding in any subject at all. What you just need is a different person giving you the message in a different way, and that may switch on your level of understanding.
You know, one of the things I would like to say to parents is the grades are only a snapshot of how prepared the student was at that time to take the subject. So grades shouldn't be a discouraging factor when it comes to a kid being proficient in any subject. It doesn't matter if the kid has a low grade. There are other ways, just as you said, to really make the grades improve, especially the method of delivery. Just one last word for parents before we close.
If you think your child is unhappy with school, find out whether your child is happy with learning. That means learning anything outside school, like biking. If you think your child is not enjoying the area, that enclosure, that formal environment, give that child the opportunity for an informal environment to learn. Because you will be surprised to see how excited a child can be about gardening, yet they're saying he's poor in biology. It doesn't add up. Because really, if you're doing gardening, you're doing botany. And botany is a significant part of biology. So you cannot rule out a child's ability because of that thing that a lot of people call grades. You can always change your grades.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. We have to go now, and we look forward to having you next week.
Thank you.
Viewers, this is Education Talk, and today we were looking at, the challenges faced by education related and emerging challenges in education, whatever issues parents and teachers are facing, and we've thought about the solutions to these challenges. Now, if you have any questions, you can send emails to educationtalk@loveotv.co.uk. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.